I'm Kristen Campbell. My background is in the hospitality and retail industries, where I've worked for a couple of very large global companies, really as their chief legal officer, but in both cases, I had responsibility for ESG and corporate sustainability. Now I'm retired, but I'm a public and private company board member, including for Crete United, which is very exciting to me. And I also do advising and professional leadership coaching.
I'm Dwight Abshire. I'm 30 years in the business, primarily in environmental health and safety. We're going to talk a little bit about ESG and why it matters. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a great question. And I think we should just start with the basics. What is E, S, and G? Well, it stands for environmental, social, and governance. And really, these are the core building blocks and foundations for building a sustainable and profitable business going forward. Environmental is, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, right, Dwight?
Right.
But really, this talks about how we are protecting the physical environment around us. That includes reduction of energy, the imposition of our carbon footprint on the rest of the world. It's all about preservation of natural resources, especially water, and also the reduction or elimination of waste, especially food waste. That's something I feel very strongly about. The S, of course, stands for social, and this really is mostly about how we treat other people. I think it's very relevant to business because this is how we want to engage our employees. We want to keep them safe, which I know is near and dear to your heart. And we also want to provide them with a shared purpose. That's a really, I think, a fundamental piece of ESG is to have a shared purpose. And of course, it also focuses on diversity and inclusion, which I think is a really important part of today's business. And then finally, governance. Governance, I always feel a little sorry for the G because it just doesn't get that much attention. But without good governance, honestly, the other things don't really matter because good governance is about the ethics and the transparency that we need to use to operate, with integrity. So Dwight, let's talk about some of the major trends in the ESG space. Now, one I'm familiar with is the importance of ESG to our workforce, to our employees, especially the younger generation entering the workforce. I'm sure you see this in your daily work here at Crete.
Well, that is a great question because I think the younger generation, as it applies to ESG and sustainability overall, they take that into account when they're applying for jobs. And a big part of that is they want to make sure that the company that they're applying for aligns with their values.
Yep.
They want to work for a company that is responsible, and they want to be a part of something with an organization rather than just have a job. So I think that, what we do with our sustainability effort lends to hiring the generation that's out there today and supporting the needs that they have. But it also makes us a very responsible organization as well.
I agree. And I imagine it would be very attractive to them to understand your excellent safety record here at Crete,
Right.
which you're principally responsible for, because that really shows that a company cares about its people and that it's really building the kind of culture where young people want to work these days.
Couldn't agree more. One of the things that comes to mind as we talk about safety and how it applies to employees, we give every employee an opportunity to not just follow the requirements that we have, but to contribute and participate. And I think that's where the value for the younger generation matters.
Exactly. Agreed. So one other trend that I'm familiar with, and it speaks to my background as a general counsel for large global companies, is really about the regulatory environment around ESG these days. And I think, companies really have no choice but to pay attention to it because both at the federal and the state levels, we have a lot of regulations that we have to deal with outside of the U.S. And so, really focusing on these core tenets of ESG and on your ESG strategy, I think will help save time and money when it comes to regulatory compliance, because nobody really has time to deal with the regulators
Right.
in their daily business, right?
So, Kristen, let's talk a little bit about sustainability's integration into business strategy and operations.
It's a great topic, and it's also a big trend, I would say. There's a lot of factors that have gone into this, but I think tech primarily has made the ability for companies to connect the dots between their corporate sustainability profile and platform and strategy. And two things that are really near and dear to a company's heart: driving revenues and profits and saving on costs. Several years ago, McKinsey and Company issued a report that I love. I've been quoting it for years now. And the premise is the following. They said that the overwhelming weight of evidence now indicates that companies who pay attention to environmental, social, and governance strategies and tactics do not experience a drag on value creation. In fact, it's just the opposite. They said there's a direct link between driving revenues and profits and also driving costs down between the implementation of an ESG type strategy. And one of the takeaways from the McKinsey work is something that I like to call the big five. And these 5 things are things that if you engage in a strong sustainability strategy, you can expect to garner for your business. Number 1, driving revenues. Number 2, decreasing costs. Number 3 is engaging employees and creating that sense of shared purpose and strong culture. Number 4 is really avoiding that regulatory nightmare and the costs associated with regulatory compliance. And then 5th, of course, super important to everyone, a strong capital return and return on investment from your sustainability efforts. So those are the big 5. And I always kind of say, like, if you can accomplish all of those things by focusing on environmental, social, and governance, why wouldn't a business do that?
Right. Well put. Do you think that we'll get to a point where, you just have a business report, you don't have a separate sustainability report, because sustainability is fully integrated into the business? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that? I love
that question because back at my previous company, which is Hilton, the hospitality company, we literally in 2019 kind of changed the whole business focus of our ESG approach. We used to have our sustainability people kind of sitting off in a corner. They had a little plan. They would go win awards. They'd get us nice PR, but it wasn't integrated into the business strategy. And so there was really no way to prove the value of it. And I do think, based on the McKinsey research and really, everything that you're seeing out there now where, businesses are really focused on how they can derive revenues, how they can engage employees, how they can save costs, that this is an enabler for businesses. So I do think that ultimately it won't be sustainability as an adjacency for your business. I think it would be part and parcel of your core strategy. Great. So good point. So Kristen, we talked about your background in hospitality. Mm-hmm. Can you provide us with some examples of how sustainability drove revenue and focused on getting cost out of the business? Yes, a number of things come to mind, but let me start with driving revenues with one of my favorite programs that Hilton, I think created and generated for the whole industry. So if you are a business owner like Crete or any of our customers, you may want to go to a hotel to throw a conference or a leadership meeting or something like that. So if you go to a Hilton, what you can do is have a net zero meeting. So Hilton will work with you to outline what the goals of your meeting are, and then they will help you create a way where you are minimizing your use of energy. They will outlaw plastics for your meeting, and they will ensure that there is proper use of waste at the end, particularly food. There's always a lot of food waste at these big conferences. And typically the leftover food will get donated to a local food pantry or other people in need. But they'll work with you to create that program. And then at the end, you get a report card which shows what your carbon footprint was for your meeting and all of the actions that you took to mitigate your environmental impacts. And the reason why it's driving revenues is because all these big companies who are looking for places to throw meetings, they have their own environmental and sustainability goals. And so this helps them achieve their goals. Now, on the cost saving side, This one, it's going to seem like a no-brainer, but I love it because I know it's something that Crete also supports, and that is installation of LED lighting systems. Love this one because it's pretty simple to do. There is sort of an upfront capital investment, so we want to be sensitive to that, and Hilton was with its hotel owners. But the great thing about LED lighting is the payback, whether your hotel was 150 rooms or 800 rooms, was less than 2 years. In most cases, it was 12 to 18 months for your payback. And then you have what we call the double-double, which is after you've gotten your payback, that's great. But for years after that, you don't have replacement costs of your lighting bulbs and fixtures, and you have reduced energy costs as a result of it as well. So it really checks all of the boxes in a good way, which is, you're saving money on your expenses for running your building, but at the same time, you're reducing your actual carbon footprint. So it's a win-win.
Right. So when we talk about social, we talked about safety, and we're pretty proud about the care that we take for our employees and what that means to us.
Yeah.
It's a passion that starts at the highest level in the organization. And I think that's a big role for the leadership team, is to really, drive that effort, because what it does is it at least places that responsibility on the leadership team to say, it's our responsibility to take care of our employees.
Right.
And so we put a lot of initiatives in place to make sure that everybody has an opportunity at every level in the organization.
So Dwight, I could talk about sustainability all day long. I love this topic, and it's been really fun to sit here with you today. So as we come to a conclusion, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, we're committed to our sustainability initiatives to continue to shape a more sustainable and equitable organization. For more information about our sustainability initiatives, go to the Crete United website, Resource Hub.